Hi, I'm Dongxiang. Welcome to Dig Into China, where we explore China in depth to reveal unique perspectives. In recent days, several intriguing reports about China's economy have surfaced in the foreign media. On December 12th, Reuters reported that China's top economic advisors have suggested setting next year's GDP growth target at 5%. Based on Xi Jinping's remarks during the recent Politburo meetings, it's highly likely that this target will indeed be adopted. This decision appears to be a politically charged response to the US, conveying the message: you doubt China and believe Trump's tariff will bring down our GDP? Let me show you our resolve. Next year, China's GDP growth rate will still be 5%. We are not afraid of US tariff sanctions. Reuters also reported that insiders at China's central bank disclosed the plans to devalue the renminbi to 7.5 as a way to offset the impact of US tariffs and safeguard export trade. Isn't this contradictory? On one hand, China aims to demonstrate its defiance against the US, claiming it's unafraid and ready to confront. On the other hand, it's proactively devaluing the currency to protect export trade. This clearly shows that the US tariff sanctions are indeed affecting China's economy. It also underscores that China cannot afford to lose the US market. Otherwise, why go to such lengths to safeguard exports? If other countries aren't imposing tariffs, why specifically respond to US tariffs policies with currency devaluation? Xi Jinping's political stance and economic measures are once again at odds, providing fodder for ridicule in the West. Since Trump's threats of tariff sanctions, Xi has become a figure of mockery on the international stage, with his actions and statements often coming across as both awkward and laughable. Xi Jinping has long boasted that China, as the world's second largest economy, has the power to make the earth tremble with a stamp of its foot. However, it's now evident that China's influence on the global economy is quickly fading. In this video, I will explore how Xi's actions have eroded China's global standing. Recently, foreign media have pointed out that China's influence on the global economy is clearly diminishing. During the Politburo meeting in Beijing, the government even introduced the most lenient macroeconomic policies in history. Yet, crude oil futures price barely reacted. Normally, as one of the world's largest oil importers, if China were planning major economic stimulus for 2025, oil demand will rise, and the crude oil prices would follow suit. This was evident when China lifted its pandemic lockdowns and oil futures spiked, as the market expected that the revival of economic activity in China would boost oil demand and push global oil price higher. However, the international market has largely disregarded the Politburo's extreme macroeconomic easing statement. This suggests that there is little confidence in any significant recovery for China's economy in 2025, and that its demand for oil imports won't see a substantial rise. Xi Jinping is probably unaware of this. If he realized that his actions no longer have any real impact on the global economy, he'd likely be so enraged that he'd be beside himself. Next, there is Xi Jinping's recent series of misguided retaliatory moves against the US, like launching an antitrust investigation into Nvidia. I imagine the reason he's going after Nvidia is because he knows it's currently the top performer on the US stock market and the leader in the American AI sector. The US stock market is largely driven by AI right now, so if China can hit the US AI sector hard, the US market will likely drop. If that happens, China benefits and Xi Jinping can claim another win, right? Of course, this is more of a joke. It is driven mainly by political motives to retaliate against the recent series of US sanctions on China. Before Biden left office, he didn't focus on much, but he certainly made China a priority. First, he made sure to kick TikTok out of the US before Trump took office. Then he announced a ban on exporting American chips to 140 Chinese companies. In Xi Jinping's view, he sees China as the world's number 2, so diplomatic equality with the number 1, the US, is a must. Whenever the US imposes new sanctions on China, China feels compelled to retaliate, almost as if it can't maintain its dignity without doing so, fearing that the smaller allies might mock it. This mindset is common among many Chinese, obsessed with saving face, always worried about being looked down upon. So they will go to great lengths to put on a strong front, even if it means overstretching themselves. But how effective is this retaliation? Take the antitrust investigation into Nvidia, for instance. China might only impose fines or extort a bit of money. Has it impacted anyone's business? It hasn't even affected Nvidia's stock price. In fact, many investors in the US are eagerly waiting to buy Nvidia on a dip. They'd probably welcome it if China drove Nvidia's stock price down further. So this retaliation seems more like a political spectacle put on for the little pinks to see. Look, the US is targeting us, so we are hitting back, proving we have the strength to stand up to America. Beyond the brainwashing the little pinks and the claim and calming the patriotic youth, the rest of it only brings negative consequences. Former central bank governor Yi Gang warned Xi Jinping against retaliating against the US over tariff sanctions, stating that it would do more harm than good. If economic development is the priority, Yi Gang's advice is correct. However, looking at Xi Jinping's retaliatory actions, it seems these moves were likely just intended to appease the little pinks. In reality, these actions have had no impact on the US whatsoever. For instance, there is the ban on exporting certain rare minerals to the US, but in reality, the US had already stopped importing these minerals from China long ago. Then there is the antitrust investigation into Nvidia. So what if billions in fines are imposed? Nvidia's chips are in high demand and its stock price remains strong. Even if China completely cuts ties with Nvidia, it won't affect their business. So these sanctions don't hurt the US at all. It seems like the retaliation is just a political performance. Imagine if China really wanted to confront the US head-on and break ties completely. Wouldn't it make the most sense for the Chinese government to go after Apple and Tesla, especially Tesla? Tesla is closely linked to Trump. Targeting Tesla would be the most direct retaliation against him, and anyone with a clear view would easily recognize the motive behind it. Next, let's talk about Apple. Apple is highly dependent on the Chinese market, and if China chose to sanction Apple and force them out, the company would lose 30% of its revenue. That would be a massive blow, and that their stock price would likely drop significantly. While China would also suffer from removing Tesla and Apple. If the goal is to truly retaliate against US, this would be the most effective move. It would be a complete break between China and the US, with all American companies pushed out of China. But looking at Xi Jinping, it's clear he has no intention of taking things that far. This indicates he doesn't want a full-blown confrontation with the US. While there are political gestures of sanctions, in reality, they don't inflict significant damage on the US. This is essentially the Communist Party signaling a willingness to negotiate. Last week, Trump revealed something that could seriously unsettle Xi Jinping. He announced that upon winning the election, he immediately invited Xi to attend his inauguration in January. Knowing Trump's penchant for theatrics, this move seems deliberately provocative. Trump understands Xi's strong desire to be seen as equal to the US and his aversion to taking a subordinate role. Xi thrives on the Middle Kingdom ideal of commanding global respect. However, this invitation would cost him as a mere guess at Trump's moment of victory, a direct affront to his pride. If Xi were to accept and attend in an effort to appease Trump, it would be a serious blow to his image, likely leaving even his most ardent supporters in China grappling with the humiliation. Plus, January in Washington, D.C. is bitterly cold. Considering Xi's frail condition, asking him to sit outdoors in freezing temperatures is clearly out of the question. He'd never put himself through such discomfort. Xi could have taken the initiative to spin the situation differently. For instance, he could have claimed that Trump, right after his victory, eagerly invited him to visit the US, but he firmly declined, delivering a significant blow to Trump's ego and demonstrating that China's leader won't cater to such overtures. Or he could have flipped the narrative, questioning who Trump thinks he is. Winning an election might be noteworthy, but expecting the leader of the world's second largest economy to attend and personally congratulate him? That's audacious, if not outright disrespectful. Xi could have openly rejected the invitation, calling it an affront to China's dignity, something the foreign ministry could have easily spurned into a PR win. Instead, Xi chose to keep this quiet, neither mocking nor challenging Trump. The story only surfaced because Trump's own team disclosed it. This gives the impression that Xi is hesitant to antagonize Trump or leverage the incident to undermine him. It underscores a reluctance to fully sever ties or escalate conflicts like a trade war. The phrase tough talk but a timid action seems to perfectly describe Xi's current approach. One key reason Xi can't fully sever ties with the US is that Russia, often seen as China's ally, has once again taken advantage of the situation. If Trump offers the right deal, Putin wouldn't hesitate to turn his back on China. Just look at the recent data from China's Customs Department. The November trade figures revealed a surprising decline. China's exports to Russia fell by 10.5%, while imports dropped by 7.4%. At a time when China is dealing with US tariff sanctions and could really use support from other markets, Russia, once a close ally, has chosen to take advantage of the situation. Recently, Putin voiced dissatisfaction with using the Chinese yuan for trade, arguing that it puts Russia at a disadvantage. Now he's demanding that the Chinese exporters accept rubles instead. This is a clear move to exploit the situation. Who would want that devalue the ruble? It's no surprise that the trade between China and Russia has seen a sharp decline. At face value, it appears Putin is simply trying to gain an advantage over China by exchanging the worthless ruble for Chinese goods. However, it's possible that he's seizing the moment while the US puts pressure on China to take a shot at Beijing. Alternatively, this could be a deal struck between Putin and Trump. Putin has long seen China as a convenient target, with the US focusing on China as its primary adversary. He's seizing the moment to benefit. On one hand, he can secure some advantages from Trump by promising not to cause any trouble for the next 4 years. On the other, as China struggles, he's taking advantage of the situation, suggesting, since you can't move your goods, why not sell them to me in rubles? I'm helping you to clear out your excess inventory. Xi Jinping, like the naive heir of a wealthy family, will never openly clash with Russia. He will pour money into maintaining Putin's superficial alliance just to avoid appearing isolated on the global stage. In the end, Putin's strategy will likely succeed. Ultimately, it all comes down to Xi's obsession with saving face. To conclude, based on the direction set by the recent Politburo meeting, Xi Jinping will likely target a 5% economic growth rate for next year. The goal is clear: to show the world that China isn't intimidated by US tariff sanctions and can still maintain strong GDP growth despite them. This is mainly a political gesture because it's clear to everyone that achieving this 5% growth target will require heavy government borrowing and the creation of hollow GDP. Pragmatic individuals might question why so many resources are being spent on a superficial goal. However, Xi seems to be driven by a sense of political insecurity, not due to domestic issues, but rather because of concerns about China's international standing. He's beginning to see that his influence on the international stage is shrinking, and that the global economy seems to be gradually distancing itself from China. Despite setting high economic targets for the coming year, OPEC has downgraded its forecast for global oil demand, predicting a sharp decline. This indicates that no matter how ambitious China's macroeconomic goals may be, the world remains skeptical about its ability to achieve them. as reflected in the pessimistic outlook for oil demand. What truly worries Xi Jinping is the growing disregard the international market has for China. As the world's second largest economy, China's influence is waning, and Xi's words are no longer as impactful as they once were. This sense of diminishing power leaves him feeling as though he's failing from a lofty position, prompting him to desperately pursue superficial achievements to reclaim China's place on the global stage. However, the more he focuses on those surface-level goals, the more marginalized China becomes. Ultimately, it is the Chinese people who suffer the most from his actions. Thank you so much for watching. If you find this video helpful, please like it, drop a comment below, and hit the subscribe button right here. It really helps YouTube suggest my videos to others. I'll be back with more content soon. Until then, be well.